our Ole Penn Real Estate Athlete of the Week is going to be Elma Girls Basketball's Jalyn Sackrider. On Tuesday, they lost to WF West. Now, WF West is a classification above them, above Elma, and also they're generally really good.
And they're generally a powerhouse.
Exactly. And they lost that game, but Sackrider managed 30 points, 14 rebounds, and 7 blocks in that game. Dang. So when you're obviously outmatched, I don't want to say they're obviously outmatched, because Elma girls have been really good over the last several years. They really have been. But when you go up against a powerhouse from a higher classification, and you know that they probably have girls that are big and strong and fast and really good, but you still manage to go 30 points, 14 boards, and 7 blocks against a team like that.
That's nuts.
That's pretty staggering. Now, she followed that up. Now, they went to Seaside and played in a tournament, and I only have results from the first game in front of me. But Sackrider in that first game is a 60-39 win over Corbett, Oregon, and she scored 18 points and had 14 rebounds to propel them to the win. I don't know how they did after that, but congratulations, Jalyn Sackrider. You are our Ole Penn Real Estate Athlete of the Week.
Yeah. Congratulations again. She is a heck of a player, and seeing her both, I mean, last year she was an all-state player as a junior. Yeah. So she's a stud and absolutely fun to watch too. Also a good interview. I had a chance to interview her after the game at one of the games as well. So excellent couple of games for Jalyn, and I'm sure that she'll be in the contention for more of these awards throughout the season, as Elma girls basketball should have another great year this year. We did have another excellent performance in girls basketball again, coming from Raymond, and hopefully we get the name right.
Yeah, I got pronunciation correction.
Okay,
from someone on Twitter. It's Kyra Gardner. Now, she wasn't the Athlete of the Week this week, but I felt like her performance was worth mentioning. Now, we talked about when she was our Athlete of the Week a couple weeks ago, how she was just like one stat off of a triple-double a couple times, which I don't like triple-doubles. I think it's a fake stat. I think those other performances were equally as impressive as this one.
Okay.
But she did record her first triple-double of the season in a win. I think it was against Life Christian, and it was a big win. Her team's undefeated. Raymond girls are undefeated. She had 25 points, 11 rebounds, 10 steals, and 5 blocks. Raymond's Kyra Gardner. That is like...
That's insane. You
can't get much more of an all-around dominating performance than she had in that game. It's really incredible what this girl's been able to do. She's leading a team that I would imagine probably has some really high hopes for what they're going to be able to do in the postseason and going into the 2B state tournament. So congratulations, Kyra Gardner. We are following you. I will be, not like literally, that would be creepy. I will be checking your stats on boy, I really I kind of painted myself into a corner here. We're checking your stats on a regular basis, and I think it would be really cool, actually, if we tried to make a trip to a Raymond game and watch her play at some point this season, maybe talk to her and get a couple of quotes about what it's like to be so good at basketball, because that's one thing that none of us really know to the level that she is good.
None of us know that to even close to the level. Yeah.
Well, you did once dominate Aberdeen
if you
in
want
a
me to,
Myrtle Street rivalry game.
Don't get me going on glory days. I mean, that would be a bad time for everybody.
Well, I actually enjoy those stories. But if you're looking to buy a home in the Grays Harbor and Pacific County area, no one will take care of you better than the team of realtors at Ole Penn Real Estate. With Ole Penn, it's personal. So congratulations not only to our Athlete of the Week, Jalyn Sackrider, but also to Kyra Gardner for continuing to perform at a really, really high level for the Raymond girls basketball team.
Yeah, and just quick discussion. You don't like triple-doubles because of the NBA.
It's a fake stat.
It's only a fake stat because of what the NBA did.
Yes.
Where now triple-doubles, just like scoring, have absolutely exploded over the last few years, where a 35-point game, 30-point game used to be awesome just like 7 years ago, and now they're everywhere.
Right.
So I understand why you hate triple-doubles, but in 8-minute quarters for high school basketball,
it's super
triple-doubles
impressive.
are stupid insane.
But I feel like if Kyra goes out there and scores 30 points and has 10 rebounds and 9 steals, I feel pretty as equally impressed with that game as I would with another. So it's cool to get the milestone of a triple-double, but there's 2 reasons I hate it. One is because it got Russell Westbrook an MVP that he didn't deserve.
In the NBA.
In the NBA. And the other one is because of stupid guys like Draymond Green who will actually play the game differently to get a triple-double. I was watching
also in the NBA.
State, exactly.
So my argument stands firm. Yeah. The NBA has ruined the triple-double for you because the NBA is stupid.
You didn't let me say what Draymond Green did.
What did he do?
He one time had an open opportunity at a fast break layup.
I remember that.
But he needed another assist to get a trip dub, and it actually was a relatively close game, and he passed up an easy dunk or layup on a fast break and passed the ball to a teammate who wasn't ready and turned it over. They probably still won because they're still the Warriors. I don't remember exactly how it ended, but I remember being like, what is wrong with you, dude? I really can't stand that guy.
Yeah, no, neither can I. A quick look at local sports this week. I did have the Aberdeen boys and Hoquiam boys basketball game this week. That was actually last night. A weird Saturday game on Christmas break. I was a little worried the crowd wasn't going to show up, but kind of filtered into the third quarter, or into the first quarter, excuse me. And so they filled in pretty nicely. It was a fun game. It wasn't. There was times where it felt like Hoquiam might break through and make that comeback, but every time it just seemed like Aberdeen had the answer that was needed. And in the third quarter, when Hoquiam was trying to put a little push on, it was Caden Seibert for Aberdeen, the junior, the 6'5" junior, who was an excellent player who had the answers. And then in the fourth quarter, it was my player of the game, which was Nick Farr, who had 15 points and led them in the game. And he had all the answers every time Hoquiam tried to push back in the fourth quarter. Both of these teams undergoing a lot of change in how they can play this season, because Aberdeen, for 2 straight years, it was Ben DeBlanco and Javier Bajorge and what they could do, and everybody looked to them in any big situation, especially since you had 2 guards who were really good. So if one was having a colder night, the other one would usually pick it up. They now don't have that, so they're in that point of transition where when you lose big-time players, you're trying to find out your identity, how you're going to play, who's going to take those big shots. And then for Hoquiam, they're playing a completely different style too, because their big players that they don't have this year were literally big players. Mm-hmm. And now they are running 5 guards. I don't think I saw a post player come into the game. They have a couple on the roster, but none of them came into the game. They went 5 guards the entire game, and really it made it difficult to stop the bigs from Aberdeen, and that was a huge part of the game too, because not only on defense trying to stop them, but they didn't really have a post presence on offense, and they would try and drive into the lane, but a lot of times, Caden Seibert at 6'5", does an excellent job of kind of holding down the middle of the paint and coming over and helping and making some of those drives tough to make.
Yeah, because it's tough when you play 5 guards. Like, it gives you an advantage in some areas. Like, you're probably faster. You could probably transition a little better. It limits what type of offense you can play. You know, you can do, Hoquiam likes to do that 3-man weave up at the top of the key. You can play like a 5-out pass and cut. But when you have a team that has an inside presence in the key, that 5-out pass and cut offense ends up getting you a lot of jump shots.
Yeah.
Because you really can't drive the lanes and you can't drive the basket if you have somebody who's a good rim protector. So it's always tough when you're trying to make that adjustment.
Especially when you're not hitting from the outside that well. Mm-hmm. Hoquiam didn't make too many 3-pointers on the night. I think Abe Morales hit 2, and Cameron Bumstead also had 2. And so if you're not able to shoot somebody out from that 2-3 zone, which Aberdeen ended up going to, then if you don't have a big guy that you can go to that high-low game and get in the high post and start working cutters like that, it does become pretty different. But again, it's a couple of teams that are figuring out exactly how they're going to play, who they're going to be, who they're going to turn to in those big-time situations here in the local area. And, you got Montesano and Elma, East County, and both of those teams, I think Elma, they're not figuring out who they were because it's different.
Yeah.
They're still growing into themselves, and so far they're performing really well. Monty, though, is in the same boat. They're trying to figure out who they are without their best player from the last couple of years as well.
And I think for Monty, it's been really up and down from game to game. They did go play at a Seaside tournament this past week, too, and they ended up finishing second. They only lost in the championship. They kind of got crushed in the championship game, but it was to the actual Seaside Oregon team, which is kind of a state powerhouse down there. So I think, Coach Galloway's got to be really happy with how the boys performed getting through that tournament and taking second. As far as Aberdeen and Hoquiam go, and for all these teams, really, it's been a lot of turnover. Like the kids you remember from last year, a lot of them are not on these teams this year for various reasons. Was there anybody from Aberdeen that you thought specifically stepped up and had a big impact on the game to help them get the win?
Well, I think Caden Seibert was a little bit, I mean, both him and Farr, the two big guys that I mentioned earlier, really did. Giovanni Pisani has showed flashes. He showed flashes last year as well, and he's that type of kid that I think can take over as well. And Ethan Morrill is an excellent defender. And when, I mean, we watched him play football. The dude runs hard and plays hard and physical. And I could see him getting into a lot of foul trouble this year, but it seemed like during that game, and I love Ethan, so don't take this anything the wrong way, but Ethan was running guys over or crashing into people, and they would either like fall out of bounds, and they would just call it out of bounds, or they would kind of lose the ball and he'd grab it. And so it was a little interesting because it seemed like because he was so strong that he wasn't getting fouls called on him that much. And so, if he can play aggressive like that, which a lot of times in the two-way, in the Evergreen two-way, it gets really physical in some of those games. And so I think he could be built to play some excellent defense in the Evergreen two-way. And I love watching him play. I mean, the dude plays so hard all the time, and he's a blast to watch, and he's such a great kid, too.
Yeah. And obviously there was enough physical play that it led to a technical foul for Hoquiam's coaching staff, which reading the explanation of what it was, it sounds like it wasn't any one thing that he did, but just an accumulation of throughout the game of calls that he felt like were missed. Mm-hmm. And I mean, in general, especially with these guys that have been coaching as long as Curtis has, if he's complaining at you the whole game, you're probably missing some stuff. Yeah,
and I think what led to that final tee is Ethan had just I didn't see what happened exactly. I admit I didn't see what happened exactly because it was over behind Aberdeen's bench. But all I know is that Dane McMillan came down with the rebound, went towards the corner behind the bench, and then all of a sudden Dane's on the ground and Ethan's got the ball and he's driving to the hoop.
He was playing football, man.
And then he gets into a tie-up. And it looks like it could be a jump ball. The shot never gets out of anybody's hands, and yet it goes from what Hoquiam thought was a jump ball. I couldn't see it. There was a mess of bodies. It was probably a foul, but they thought it was a jump ball, and it got called a shooting foul as well. And so there was like all of those things into one. Eccles loses his temper a little bit, gets a tee there, and that was kind of a little bit of a turning point because at the moment I think Hoquiam had brought it to within 4. They were actually on a little mini comeback there. But Aberdeen makes 3 out of their 4 free throws, and then they get the ball back. So they stretch it back to 7, and they have possession. So that was a little bit of a turning point there in that game.
And on the Hoquiam side, we mentioned head coach Curtis Eccles, and he's been coaching this team for a really long time. He was on with us a couple weeks ago and had pointed to Bumstead as one of the kids who really would step up and be a leader, had played some significant time last season as well. What did you think about some of the kids? Because it was a competitive game. I know Hoquiam didn't win, but it seems like there was some good performances on that side as well.
Yeah, and the thing is Aberdeen's also playing down a couple guys as well. They're going to be getting back Jaden Watson, who's one of their best players, also a big guy, and Wyatt Johnson, who's coming off of an ankle injury. So both of those guys will really help Aberdeen. I especially love watching Wyatt play. He's an explosive athlete. So much fun to watch. For Hoquiam, they started and played sparingly Zach Elsis, who's one of their bigger guards, who probably would have helped them. He's about 6'2", a good leaper. But they beat Toledo the night before the day before at St. Martin's. They went to St. Martin's, played Toledo, who's generally a really good team in their league down south. I think it's 2B, but usually they're really good. And he crashed to the ground and hurt his left wrist and his foot. And he tried to go. He had his wrist taped up, but you could tell every time every time he had to catch it or dribble it or do anything with his left hand, it was painful. And finally, he looked at the bench and pointed to his wrist and was like, I can't do this anymore. So that was early in the first half that he came out.
It's always tough in basketball when you have to fight something through when it's in your hand or your wrist.
Exactly.
There was one time in one of our rec basketball games when I hurt my thumb, and I was like, no, I'm okay, I'm going to play through it. And then I caught a pass, and I didn't even signal to the bench. I literally just dropped the ball on the ground. I was like, okay, I'm done. You guys can finish the game.
And I noticed it during warm-ups because he was catching everything with one hand and doing everything with one hand. And so that was a bit of a bummer for them. I mean, they have some talent in their guards. They really do. Bumstead's a stud. He'll have some monster games this year. Dane McMillan was coming off an 18-point performance, I believe. He'll be really good. He's a junior, plays really great defense. You look at, I'm trying to think of, Garrett Dick is an excellent player as well. They had 5 guys. Troy McMinn has kind of been an upstart for him, and I put in some great minutes. So I'm missing some guys here, obviously, but I really do think that once they figure out how to run with 5 guards, and if they can do that effectively, you're going to see some high point totals from them. But every now and then, I think you're going to see some games where the other team grinds it out, gets it down low, and it'll be a little bit of a struggle.
Yeah, because especially if they're trying to run 5 guards and they want to run transition, and they want to try to move the game quickly and get quick shots, if you have a team that successfully grinds the ball on offense, then it disrupts the flow of what you're trying to do.
Yeah, Alex Reyes also coming off the bench doing well. Abe Morales came off the bench and doing well. I'm missing a starter here, I believe, because there was Elsis, McMillan, Bumstead, Dick, and one other. So I really apologize. I'm missing one of the starters.
All of Hoquiam is so angry at you right now.
I know. I'm sorry. It's terrible.
Why do you hate Hoquiam so much, Daniel?
You used to be a Grizzly.
I used to be.
Well, you're not anymore. Couldn't remember the 5th starter.
I know.